it turns out that a substantial portion of USAID is about facilitating the military-industrial complex. I'm not surprised.
Shocking.
Neither should you be. And so here's what June had to say.
DOGE's supposed goal seems to be cutting useless spending the government is making us pay taxes on. And yes, we should be auditing the government. I think that's a good thing. Frankly, I don't care who does it as long as they do it well. Good things are good, bad things are bad. I'm anti-bad things, pro-good things. Months before dismantling the Department of Education, or apparently Sesame Street, DOGE's first order of business was dismantling USAID.
Without providing any proof, Elon said USAID is a criminal organization. Oh yeah. They're an international crime syndicate hell-bent on helping people.
It is a crime syndicate.
It is. So it's like, this is one of those situations with USAID, and I said this at the time that first came out about cutting it, where multiple things can be true at the same time. So it's right. So you could, both sides are pointing out true things, and they don't contradict each other. But yeah.
Pretty f***ed up, huh? Taking money away from an aid program that helps poor people all around the world. Except USAID was not exactly that. In fact, it doesn't even f***ing stand for aid. It stands for United States Agency for International Development. Although it said USAID provides 42% of global aid, the truth is most of those funds are just spent paying US contractors.
Ooh, and the truth comes out.
And there it is.
Foreigners don't receive much of America's $35 billion annual foreign aid budget. Instead, big American aid contracts tend to go to big American companies and non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Do you know where else this activity is taking place right now, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, a little place called Ukraine. It's the same
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
but this is the same thing as how it always works. So we've said this before about, when we give $20 billion to Israel, we're not really giving them $20 billion, right? We're probably giving them a couple of $1 billion, and then $18 billion is going to like Lockheed and Raytheon and those companies. And so ultimately the money that we're giving in aid is really just satisfying our shareholders. This is the same thing. It's the same concept. So it's like, yeah, we're giving money, but we're giving money in a way that it only benefits ourselves.
Amen.
And secretly conducting regime change all around the world. In fact, 80% of all USAID funding goes to just 75 organizations, while only 6% of that goes to aid.
That's about right.
I have been saying this for a long time. I said it to Jen. I've said it to my friend who sits on their board. I don't hold back. This is like the Red Cross.
It's a giant circle jerk. That's all this is, like Bill Gates Foundation. Exactly. It's a giant circle jerk.
Mm-hmm. All that you think is actually going to help people. Kind of like the second a disaster hits. California wildfires, Hurricane Katrina.
How long is this video? How long is this video?
A few minutes.
Okay, I got to go run and get my my bullet.
Okay. And so what's interesting about these particular organizations, such as the Red Cross, is that if you look at how much of the money that is actually spent on actually helping people, it would make you sick. And in most cases, it's a number so small, it rivals exactly what's happening here with USAID. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. So for those people that are out there defending USAID, I can't help but think that the reason they're doing it is because they're being encouraged, or let's just say paid to do so by the Democratic Party establishment. For what reason, I can't tell you, but it's absolutely insane to defend this type of behavior. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty as to what's actually going on, and it's pretty ugly.
And yes, it's true, we are spending billions of dollars in our tax money to fund things like teaching Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language, combating disinformation in Kazakhstan, promoting inclusion in Vietnam, millions to an Armenian LGBT group, millions to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem, millions for LGBT causes in the Western Balkans, millions for LGBT activism in Uganda, millions for atheism in Nepal, millions for male circumcision around the world, and $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. And many other things that were so ridiculous I had to double check to make sure I wasn't being trolled. Taxpayer-funded sex changes in Guatemala? We don't even do that here. Now, you might be saying, Shoe, this seems like some stupid anti-woke shit. And yeah, kind of. You got me. But I ask you, young naive liberal, why the f*** was John Bolton once the head of USAID? The truth.
That's an interesting connection. Not because he cares about trans surgery.
Why would somebody like John Bolton be the head of USAID? Because it's a front for the military.
That man.
Oh, well.
Stephen Miller?
I didn't. You know, I got to tell you, I really cannot tell the difference between Stephen Miller and Josh Greenblatt.
Jonathan Greenblatt.
Jonathan Greenblatt. I think they look the same.
Maybe it's the same person.
Maybe it is. Have you ever seen the two of them together at the same time?
I don't know. We're going to have to look.
The USAID thing goes a lot deeper than what a lot of Republican commentators are saying. It wasn't just a bunch of libtards in government wasting our money on stupid woke things. No, there's way more than that. To put it bluntly, USAID is nothing but another form of taxpayer-funded regime change, wearing an innocent mask of aid. Established in 1961 by President John F. Kennedy under the noble guise of aiding developing nations, USAID was, in many respects, an instrument during the Cold War to counter Soviet influence and keep the Third World from crafting its own socioeconomic model. A year after President John Kennedy created USAID in 1961, he told its directors that, as we do not want to send American troops to a great many areas where freedom may be under attack, we send you. It wasn't long before the CIA spotted an opportunity to extend its reach. In 1962, USAID launched its Office of Public Safety to send agents around the world under the guise of training police officers.
How much you want to bet this was done without JFK's knowledge?
But you see how it's all connected. So the whole point of things like this are to profit the consultant class of people. And in this case, that's NGOs. It's the same thing that the Democrats do with when they're having elections. It's the same thing. These are things that exist to feed their trough of their friends. And that's what it is. It feeds a certain group of organizations that exist to be fed by this. And it's just like a circular argument. It doesn't serve but 6%.
Amen.
But as it turned out, the trainers were busy teaching enhanced interrogation techniques, a euphemism for torture. The scandal broke out in 1966, and although the office was finally shut down in 1974, the dark practices persisted within military and intelligence circles. By 1980, USAID Administrator John Gilligan was candid enough to describe the agency as nothing more than a graduate school for the CIA. At one time, many aid field offices were infiltrated from top to bottom with CIA people, he said. It was pretty well known in the agency who they were and what they were up to. The idea was to plant operatives in every kind of activity we had overseas, government, volunteer, religious, every kind.
You know, it takes me back to 2017 when you had people like John Brennan, John Bolton being celebrated by the elite liberal class. Remember when John Brennan was interviewed by Bill Maher and he was supposed to be a voice of reason of sorts? This is the whole thing about the deep state. This is the whole thing about what ends up happening and how they co-opt these organizations. You know, Chucky the Shoom wasn't lying when he went on Rachel Maddow almost a decade ago saying, if you go up against the military-industrial complex, they have nine, or the CIA, they have 9 ways to Sunday to get back at you. Well, he wasn't lying. So we have been co-opted by these shadow government organizations. And the second that somebody tries to take an axe to it in whatever capacity that may be, and as we've said before, the reason why Trump and Elon are doing this is very likely, almost assuredly, for self-serving purposes. But for whatever reason they're doing it, it's still a good thing. And the fact that everyone is throwing their arms up in the air about, no, we have to protect USAID. Why exactly?
Well, isn't that convenient that was how the propaganda was set up, so that people are, for the same reason at the hands off rally, you had people with hands off NATO, right? You're because people hate Trump and hate everything about that, they're going to take the opposite position, and nobody's thinking through the connection. But the problem I have with how they started with this is, like I've said from the beginning, you're coming in and saying that you're going to cut waste, and you don't start with the Pentagon. Then you are wasting all of our time, because everything else is but a drop in the bucket. So even though this is very valid, I don't it still doesn't,
But what
it's still not exciting for me that that's what they're cutting when there's so many bigger things to cut. But anyway.
But you would definitely have to agree that in a way, this is connected to the Pentagon. I mean, this is the CIA. It's a major front organization for the CIA.
It is, but that's not the 2 trillion, 3 trillion of unaccounted for money.
No, that's
isn't from USAID. It's from the Pentagon. So I'm
this
just
does matter. But until you're going after Raytheon, until you're going after Lockheed Martin, until you're going after Boeing, General Dynamics, and the like.
Exactly.
So
and the problem is, when you go after things, when you start with stuff like this, all it does is facilitate the wedge issues of things like whatever it was, gay choir or trans surgery in another country. I don't know, whatever it was, whatever the wedge issues are that they found, which are probably like a 0.1% of what the funding of USAID is. And again, not a fan. I think it's corrupt. I think it's filthy. I think it's terrible in the way that it is undercutting what we need to be doing. But I don't think that that's the problem that it's being made to be in either direction.
And as Anastasia points out, it's like you're subtracting one problem and you're creating another problem. And you can do a good thing, but if you're going to do 2 or 3, 4 other bad things, then you're not really solving a problem. And this is why we often get back to the issue here of, okay, so we end the war in Ukraine, and that's all well and good, but now you're trying to start a war with Iran, which is infinitely more dangerous and destructive if that were to come to pass. So really, what's the point? That is where we get back to the issue of, do we need a revolution in this country?
Part of me wants them to poke a fight with Iran, because I see that'll be the end of Israel.
That'll be the end of Israel.
Right. So. And which is why I say, I think that in some cases, I think Netanyahu it's like suicide by bomb, because let them start with Iran. Go ahead. Go try that. Go have fun with that. We will be so screwed in ways that people can't even fathom.
Correct.
You want to talk about an energy crisis?
Huh.
You want to talk about gas prices? You want to I don't think people really comprehend what poking at Iran. Let me tell you, people, it is by the grace of the Iranians that we are not more screwed than we already are right now.
You also have to see the shit talking that the Zionists are throwing at the Pope today. The Pope has just died, and the Zionists can't help themselves.
No, that's okay. Honestly, they've been.
Fly
what
Icarus.
do you expect from people that have been annihilating churches? They're annihilating churches. And by the way, even in Jerusalem at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and I've been to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, so it's in Jerusalem, it's in the old city, and they're beating and detaining and all this stuff with Christian prayer goers from Easter. And these people are so far gone. They have no honor, no respect, no nothing. They are just too far gone. They need to be lanced like a boil. They just do. They are just, you cannot reason with these people. They're psychotic.
Could say that again.
USAID was quickly nicknamed the CIA's little sister. Oh, and here is John Bolton holding a trophy given to him by USAID in the shape of a hand grenade.
You gotta be kidding me.
Can you imagine the awards ceremony wherein he was presented with that? Honestly, you know that somewhere there was a group of people sitting in a room applauding that being handed to somebody. Seriously.
Oh, God, if John Bolton can pump enough Viagra to get it up anymore, he probably jerks off looking at it. Jeez,
Oh,
Louise.
On January 12, 2010, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti, killing 220,000 people, injuring another 300,000, and leaving 1.5 million more homeless. In the wake of the catastrophe, the United States provided $1.6 billion in reconstruction funding to Haiti, $651 million of which went to USAID. Rather than employing Haitian construction companies, USAID contracted out the rebuilding projects to international firms. For instance, Minnesota-based construction firm Thor was awarded $18 million in contracts, and Mexico-based firm Cemex received over $7 million. But by far the largest recipient of USAID funding in Haiti was Washington, D.C. based contractor Chemonics International, who received over $200 million to carry out a total of 141 projects. In fact, USAID awarded more money to Chemonics than to the entire Haitian government in the wake of the earthquake. An audit conducted on Chemonics revealed that the company had a tendency to not finish jobs, evaluated its own project on arbitrary criteria not having to do anything with the project, and failed to set timelines, causing some projects to fall behind schedule. In one case, Chemonics was contracted to build Haiti's new parliament building, but what they constructed came out half-finished and unusable. The company only built the framework of the building, not even erecting interior walls to divide office spaces.
Does this sound familiar, by the way?
Very.
Clinton Foundation, anybody?
That's what they do.
That's what they do. Those are the same these NGOs are created as they're essentially slush funds. They're tax exempt slush funds.
Not essentially. They are.
All right.
That is
Well, they don't call them that, let's say.
No, but
And
look.
USAID is basically the middleman for the slush funds.